Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Welcome back, everybody, to stream number 3. And yeah, let's get it going. So, today we're going to be talking about the OVAs and the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. I'm thinking about saving the chapter towards the end because I know there's some anime only watchers out there that probably don't want to get spoiled on what's going on in My Hero Academia as of late. So we're gonna save the spoiler talk or the chapter talk for the end or towards the end of the stream because I do have a lot of things to say about the latest chapter, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But let's go over the OVAs. So the new OVAs came out yesterday, and I was going to do a stream on the OVAs by itself, and just talking about it, but your boy was doing stuff. So the stream got delayed till today. Sorry about that. I know I said on Mondays we'll be doing streams, but this week it didn't work out as I wanted to. But yeah, let's talk about it. So the first OVA that came out yesterday was the HLB, the Hero Baseball or HBL, Hero Baseball League. And a quick review. It was great. I liked it. It was one of the funner, one of those words, right? Even though they're probably not real. It was one of the fun OVAs, and I had a great time. Unlike with like a bunch of the other like filler and other OVA content that came out from My Hero Academia, this was definitely something that intrigued me the most, just because I always wondered in My Hero, right? What would like sports or the Olympics and stuff like that work when the majority of the world's society and the world's people, 80% of the world, right, have quirks. So how would that work in a professional sports? And that was something that has always sat in the back of my mind, like how would that work? And this kind of gave you a taste of how that would work, but at the same time, when you really look at it, it's like that probably wouldn't be the best way to go about heroes or just quirks in general being a part of sports. And it also makes me wonder, is regular sports still a thing, right? There's still that 20% of the world's population that doesn't have a quirk or just has, that there's still a good amount of, even in the 80%, that have kind of like dog quirks, like bad quirks. So I've always like wondered, how would that look, or even do they still exist? And we do know that there are sports festivals like in My Hero Academia where you have the students utilizing their quirks and getting ahead of the competition like that, but that was more of like a hero sort of thing, and it wasn't really specified on whether or not in the actual world of My Hero Academia there are events like that, which you could make the assumption that of course there was events like that the whole time, but we never really get to see if those events actually existed or how they worked in My Hero Academia. That's why when I talk about My Hero Academia, the whole world itself is very intriguing because a lot of people, the majority of people, have quirks. So it's like, how would a lot of the stuff that we do in our real world work with quirks in My Hero Academia? So it was very interesting to see that sort of be taken into account within this OVA, and we got to learn a little bit more about the HBL. Basically, it has a weird set of rules where quirks are allowed to the fullest extent. Obviously, you can't kill nobody because that would be wrong. You would be marked as a villain right then and there, right? But what's very interesting about it is that the rules, it was weird because it's not regular baseball rules. Of course, you have the regular baseball rules as a blueprint for the sport, but the quirks added onto it. The fact that if somebody gets KO'd, they're out, and you could win by basically knocking the other team out. They can get disqualified by basically being knocked out. And that's kind of what we see towards the end of the OVA when Gang Orca and Lioness, I believe that's what his name was, Lionel or Lioness, um, they knocked each other out at the end, and that was very interesting to see that you could just end the game on a tie in that sort of sport. And it makes you wonder, like, if this is a big thing in My Hero Academia, if quirks are allowed in a bunch of these sports, do all of them sort of work like that? Would soccer work like that, right? And I've always wondered why, like, more animes don't do the soccer thing, or at least like a soccer special episode or OVA. But would soccer work like that? If you knock out your whole team, would that be an automatic win or automatic tie? Or would basketball work like that? I think that would be an interesting episode. But the OVA itself started off. It was fun, right? The OVA itself, the way it started, it was like just right off the bat. We're at the baseball field. You have Team Gang Orca, and then you have Team Lionel, and they have the students from Class 1A, and I believe some from Class 1B there to help them. They formed like a mini league off of the work study students. So like a lot of the stuff that happened in the OVA itself was very funny. I think this was definitely one of the funniest OVAs or just anime only things in My Hero Academia. I think it's on the level of being as funny as just regular My Hero Academia with Horikoshi, and like with just Horikoshi writing it, right? Because I do laugh my ass off when like funny stuff happens in regular My Hero Academia. But the OVA had a nice and very good sense of humor to it. Like when Mineta got like hit by the baseball as well as the bat, and he just flew across the map. That to me, I started dying when that happened. When I saw that happen, I started dying. The gag of Jiro like fake fainting because she did it because it got a little bit too intense and she didn't want to get hurt or something like that, right? She did what the Vine girl did. I always forget a lot of Class 1B's names, and I guess you could say that's the fault of Horikoshi for not really utilizing them as much. And we only have like that one arc featuring the whole class of Class 1B, so I don't have a lot of memories, or just I can't associate their names when I see their characters with each other. But the Vine girl, the girl that's always praising God, right? She fainted because it was just too much for her, right? So that was funny. I like the way what they did with Jiro, but I also felt like they could have done a little bit more with Jiro, because not only did she do that cool thing with her heartbeat and she made the ball fly away, but in the episode itself, Gang Orca kind of fired up his team, and they all had like that little flame, that determination flame in their eyes, and I thought she was going to do something a little bit more, but it is what it is, right? She just dipped out kind of early for me, but it was still cool. I didn't really mind it that much. And funny enough, I know I'm jumping over everything, but it's because when I'm trying to remember, I only watched it one time. So when I'm trying to remember stuff, the things come to my head. I'm like, oh yeah, let me talk about this real quick. But this was the first time in this OVA, in the anime itself, that we get to see Mount Lady's face. And it happens at the end of the OVA when they're all taking the train or the bus home, right? Mount Lady, I believe, is sitting next to Fat Gum, and she doesn't have her costume on. She has regular clothes on, and she does clearly she doesn't have her mask on either. So it's like the first time we get to see her face in the anime, which I thought was very interesting. I think it might be the first time we got to see her face at all in just any sort of My Hero Academia media, but I could be wrong. Like I said before, I wish I was the encyclopedia for My Hero Academia so I could remember every little detail. But there probably was in the manga a moment, like probably a little bit after or before the war arc, where we do actually get to see Mount Lady's face. But this is actually the first time we actually get to see her face in the anime, which I thought was very interesting, because I guess you could say I was expecting a little bit more when it came to her face, because I was surprised. I remember when I first saw who Fat Gum was talking to, I was like, who is he talking to? And when I rewind it to that moment, I was like, oh, that's Mount Lady, because the curl in her hair, right? You could tell who she is because of the curls in her hair, and I was like, oh, that's Mount Lady. That's so weird, and she kind of looked flat, I guess you could say. Like, there wasn't a lot of details to her face, unlike when she has her hero costume on, right? So it was like she was kind of unrecognizable when she didn't have her hero, or like her hero getup. So I was kind of expecting more. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I don't know if anybody else kind of felt like that, but I definitely felt like that when it came to like seeing Mount Lady's face in the anime. So, but other than that, it was very enjoyable. Now, I think one of my problems that I have with the OVA itself, and actually both of the OVAs, and I still haven't even gotten to the Laugh Like You're in Hell OVA. Uh, they did this thing in both OVAs where in the middle of them doing whatever they were doing, whatever the episode was really about, right? Some crime activity took place and they had to stop whatever they were doing and then handle that new crime for a second. And that kind of just like threw me off a little bit. Like, it took me out of whatever was going on. And in the baseball episode, right, in the middle, like, it's Gang Orca versus Lionel. They're the last two people standing, and some crime is happening. Like, they get like a siren noise and a big alert that a villain had robbed a bank, or not a bank, but it might have been a bank. They robbed a bank and they took a truck, and then they're going to this specific highway where it just so happens where the HBL match is being held at, right? The little highway on the overpass. So they dropped the whole match for a moment, and they went to go handle the crime, and that kind of like really took me out of the match and kind of the episode in general, because I was like, oh, I came for the HBL thing. I didn't come to see these two amazing pro heroes work together and stop a crime, right? But it was something that happened very quick, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Maybe that's just a me thing, right? Because it did take me out of it. I don't know if that happened to anyone else. Let me know if it did. You know, I see some commenting right now in the chat, but you know, that really did take me out a little bit, because it threw me off, because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting Gang Orca and Lionel to really go at it, and then once that was over, they like resumed the match like as if nothing had happened, and so that happened, right? So freaking, of course, at the end, Lionel and Gang Orca knocked each other out, and it was a tie. And then they had a really funny moment where it was like, hey, I knew it. HBL is a fun sport, or something like that, right? And it was very funny. I don't really understand, because they kind of hint at them not liking each other, and I don't know, like I said before, I only watched it one time, so I'm not sure if, you know, in the middle of that I got distracted by maybe my phone or just something else entirely. But I don't know what they were mad at each other for. Like, I get, like, you know, the mystery in the episode of, you know, these two pro heroes not really liking each other all that much, and I think that's cool. Like, it reminds me of the All Might and Endeavor thing, where they don't, well, All Might really has no hate for Endeavor, but Endeavor hates All Might, right? And so it reminded me of like that sort of rivalry that All Might and Endeavor had. And I thought it was pretty cool that, you know, other pro heroes do have that sort of rivalry. It just isn't like all sunshine and rainbows, like every pro hero is willing to work with another one, or is in good standing with another pro hero. And I like that sort of aspect of Gang Orca and Lionel. I thought it was pretty cool. But I never really understood why they didn't like each other. I'm not sure if it got explained. Let me know if it did. But aside from like everything else, I know that, you know, Mineta was in it. Wait, I wanted to get into comedy. I don't know what I was talking about, but the comedy thing about it, like I said before, it was a very funny episode to me. I had a blast with this episode. I loved almost every joke in it. Of course, there was some where I'm just like, whatever, right? That wasn't that funny, but it was still overall a very funny episode. It was very good, and I think my favorite, because I know earlier I said I really like Mineta getting hit with the baseball, because I thought that was hilarious with Tetsu Tetsu. But I think my favorite gag, or my favorite moment that happened, was when Mount Lady gets hit by Kamui Woods. She falls over. Sero catches the ball, but then he gets crushed by Mount Lady, and Mineta's just like, I can't believe that wasn't me, kind of moment, right? Like he wanted that to happen to him. I thought that was hilarious. Of course, the Mineta being a perv thing is like its own separate topic for when it comes to controversies. I'll probably get into that in a different stream. I don't want to get into it right now, but I thought that was hilarious. I laughed my ass off so hard when that happened, and I do love the gag of Gang Orca throwing the students. Oh my! I guess I'm hungry. Throwing the students because like they disappointed him or something like that, and then Jiro thought that she was gonna get thrown next, but then they got all determined from Gang Orca. But yeah, all in all, great episode. I know I didn't really give a summary about it, but it's basically, hey, Class 1A, Class 1B, two pro heroes, multiple pro heroes playing a baseball game, right? A baseball game with the twist of quirks being involved. So that was very interesting. Now, I want to talk about the animation. Now, the animation threw me for a loop, because when it comes to OVAs, I'm not really expecting the best quality animation, like some top tier thing that I would expect from the actual season of the anime. And that really did throw me for a loop, because the animation was actually really good. It was weird how kind of good it was, because like I said, you don't really expect that from just the TV only or just anime only thing, right? You don't expect that from an OVA, or at least when it comes to My Hero Academia, I'm not expecting it, right? And it really surprised me when the animation was really good. The animation for like certain parts of like when Lionel was like getting hyped up and stuff like that, and they kind of like go over his quirk and who he is. I thought that was really good animation, because he's just like yelling and stuff like that. It was cool. If you've been on Twitter, you probably know what I'm talking about when I mean by that. Even like some people in the community were like, how this looks way better than what we got for the actual season 5. And I can definitely agree to that to a certain extent, because there was some great moments in season 5, but this animation was good throughout the episode, which like I said, I don't want the animators to really overwork themselves and give us the best animation for every single episode, or even just OVAs in general, but it was really unexpected. I wasn't expecting that, and I do hope that with this animation, or with these OVAs that dropped, that they don't sort of drop the ball for season 6, because if we're getting good animation for just these OVAs, I'm going to expect, or I'm going to have my expectations high for season 6, and if they don't deliver, or if they do another season 5 thing, I'm going to be disappointed, because then obviously I'm going to roast them in my videos and be like, hey, how come we got great animation for these OVAs, which shouldn't be prioritized as much, but when it comes to the actual season, we don't get it. So I'm hoping that that animation, even though like it wasn't the craziest animation, but it was still pretty solid. I hope we do get more of that, if not better, in season 6. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for. That's like the one worry I have, because these animations, or these OVAs, came out in between seasons. So if I'm going to get good OVA animation, I'm gonna want good season animation. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure a lot of you might agree like that. The animation is better than 7 Deadly Sins. I think any animation is better than 7 Deadly Sins, honestly. But that's a different topic, right? Yeah, so that I was pretty surprised by the animation. Animation really good for these episodes. Now let's go and talk about the second OVA. I believe it's called uh, "Laugh as If You Are in Hell." This one, I I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle on it. Not that I hated it or anything, but it was just like it kind of reminded me of a regular My Hero Academia episode, which is something that I kind of want more from My Hero. When I think about like what I want from My Hero Academia, it felt like a villain of the week type of thing, and that's what kind of I want from it. I want more villain build-ups, even if it's just like small villains like Mr. Smiley, right? Mr. Smiley was a very small villain, but he's well, I guess you could say not a villain. He's sort of like just a mini vigilante or something like that, but not really because he's still vandalizing, right? But he he's a small villain. He's a character. He has somewhat character development, and he was good. I liked him. I liked the way he was in this episode. But let me do a quick synopsis of what the episode was really about, for because some people might be confused or just needs that little refresher before I really get into it on Mr. Smiley. So basically, the laugh as if you are in hell was an episode where the three, I don't know if you guys heard that, that was not a fart, but the three of the trio, the green light trio, right, the traffic light trio, I mean, Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki are with Endeavor at for their work study, and they kind of go over that in the beginning of the episode, where he's just like, hey, we're at the work studies, I'm doing a lot more hero work now, and I'm working with the number one hero along with two of my friends. So that's kind of what it is. And basically what's going on in the OVA is that there's a villain out there, Mr. Smiley. He does like little petty crimes, and one day, Endeavor was just kind of gonna ignore it, but then Mr. Smiley vandalized his home. He did a graffiti drawing on his door or on his wall, and that's when Endeavor got pissed off, and it was like, you know what, we're gonna get this Mr. Smiley guy at all costs. I want him out of here because he disrespected my house, right? That's basically what it is. And so Mr. Smiley, going back to Mr. Smiley, that was the end of the synopsis. Mr. Smiley was definitely a fun villain, because I don't know why it is, but every time he like smiled and used his quirk, and then you have that little soundbite play where it's a girl that sounds very like she's kind of moaning Mr. Smiley's name. She's like, Mr. Smiley, but it sounds very like, girly and like, I guess you could say horny. To me, that's what it kind of sounded like a little bit. It threw me off the first time I heard it. I was just laughing because I was like, what the hell, right? But it was, every time it happened a lot in the episode where he uses this quirk. Then we hear the soundbite, and it always like, it didn't take me out of it, but it just had me laughing my ass off because of what was going on. And of course, his quirk makes you laugh, right? It makes whoever looks at him smile, they end up laughing. So when the guys actually get caught by his quirk, and it happens multiple times in the episode, right? We see Endeavor laughing his ass off. Deku, the gag of the episode was basically every time Deku saw the dude or saw his smile and started laughing, he to me it sounded like moaning Nero. But every time they started laughing, or Deku started laughing specifically, he'd always crash into a wall and he's just bleeding, right? And he's just laughing his ass off. That to me was funny, just because it's like, he's supposed to be the one for all user, right? He's supposed to be the guy that is more level headed and stuff like that, but he just ends up crashing into a wall every time he tries to do something remotely cool. So that was something that really was hilarious to me. Bakugo laughing was funny because it was such an aggressive laugh, and Todoroki's laugh had me crying. because because he just like had a muffled laugh, uh where, well, not muffle, he would giggle. He didn't really laugh. He didn't laugh like ha ha ha, like so, like All Might or whatever, Deku, Bakugo, and even Endeavor was doing, right? I wasn't expecting Endeavor to die laughing, so that took me by surprise as well. But Todoroki, when Todoroki was dying of laughter, he was giggling and he was holding it in, and that had me laughing so hard because it it fit his character. It fit his character because he's that cool guy. He doesn't really show a lot of emotion and stuff like that. Which I, speaking of, I do have a video in the works about that. But he doesn't show a lot of emotion, and he's very like just a chill dude. So him dying of laughter and it being him giggling, it was hilarious to me. Of course, we see Burnin and everybody laughing as well. It was a fun time, honestly. It was a fun time. But I think like the problem that I had with the last episode, right? At the end of the episode, we are like, I guess the whole thing gets interrupted because of another robbery happens, like a robbery in the process happens, right, where they're at, where they go and they surround Mr. Smiley, who's vandalizing the inside of I believe a mall or a shopping center, or just one of the shopping places, and he's vandalizing a wall, and then Deku does his Deku thing and tries to talk to him and tries to understand him. And I believe this would have been a great OVA for after the war arc, because after the war arc, he has that sort of, I guess you could say, epiphany, where he's like, I want to understand my villains more. But this is technically takes place before the war arc. This takes place during the Endeavor Agency arc, so like around World Heroes Mission and just that arc in general, right? So and at that time he does tend to understand his villains, but he wants to understand them more afterwards. So it kind of felt weird that he kind of was feeling like that with Mr. Smiley, of all people. Now that's just like a little nitpicky thing that you could say, but it's still, I felt like that could have been something, even though like you can't really do anything after the war arc because that's when shit goes down. But I felt like that would have been something cool for like after the war arc type of thing. But we can't really touch on after the war arc because that's when everything is basically gone to hell. So I thought that was a little weird for his character. And besides that, great episode. Oh yeah, the whole bank robbery thing, or the jewelry theft thing. I'm so sorry that I kind of jump everywhere, guys. I really am. I'm trying to get better at talking and like going through things in my head, because I don't have any bullet points or scripts like that, because this is live. You can't really have a script for something like that. But the robbery thing happens, and it kind of just took me out of it, right? It took me out of it because it's like, I don't want to really, I wanted to be more focused on Mr. Smiley, Deku, and what Deku was trying to do. But it did work out in the end. For this one, it felt more in line with it other than the baseball one. So I'm not really mad that there was this sort of disconnect, unlike in the baseball one. But it still kind of felt a little off. But it was built up throughout the episode, unlike the HBL one, where it just happens out of nowhere, like towards the end of it. This one was definitely a lot more built up, but it was still like, I want to see more Mr. Smiley. That's how I was in that shit. I know a lot of people might feel differently about this one specifically than the baseball one, but definitely it felt a little weird. But it still worked out in the end. It still helped with the Mr. Smiley story, because at the end he gets his little like news spot. He gets to tell people that hey, he's an up and coming artist, and he just wants to make people smile with his art. And then he does the whole using his quirk through the TV, and then we see everybody from Class 1A and just other people in general laughing their ass off. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see Aizawa just dying of laughter. We knew he was, because they did show Mirio, Eri, and Aizawa, and Mirio and Eri were laughing. So I'm pretty sure Aizawa wasn't prepared to erase his quirk, but it happened, and I wish we would have saw him laughing his ass off, because I feel like we don't really get to see Aizawa laughing all that much or being really happy. But it is in line with him that we don't get to see it. It just sucks that we didn't. But yeah, that was basically the OVAs. I really enjoyed it a lot. If I had to say what my favorite part of this OVA was, probably the Bakugo stuff, like the Bakugo training with Endeavor, and just learning to fight with just sound cues, and how Endeavor was like, B6 H1, doing all these like little what would you say it, these sort of, I guess, codes for movement. Yeah, I'm so bad. These codes for him to move in a specific direction, and I really loved that part of it, because it showed just how skilled Bakugo really is when it comes to fighting. And I love seeing that when it comes to Bakugo, at least in that aspect, because we do see it a lot more from other characters, like Deku, for example. Of course, he's the main character, so we're gonna see him show off his skills a lot more. But Bakugo kind of is like in the background sometimes, and you don't really get to see what he's doing or how he's training. And it was just cool to see that out of all of the students, or out of the three, Endeavor chose Bakugo for this, because he notices how skilled he is. And I did think it was a little weird that Endeavor himself didn't go do it himself, but at the same time, this is work study. This isn't a villain that is on the same level as Ending, right? So where maybe someone like Endeavor would need to get involved, because that's a villain who's out to kill. But this was just a villain who's vandalizing, so it wasn't really that crazy. And I am glad that it wasn't Endeavor, and that Endeavor gave Bakugo that chance. Of course, this isn't canon or anything like that, but it's just cool to see that Endeavor took this as more of an opportunity to teach Bakugo, or to help the students learn more. So that was cool. But yeah, OVA was definitely fun. I loved both of them. I think these are one of my favorite OVAs out of My Hero Academia. If I was to have them in some sort of rank, it would be HBL on the top. HBL was my all-time favorite one OVA to come out from My Hero Academia. And Mr. Smiley would definitely be probably second or third. I'm not really sure. I would have to watch the other OVAs, but there's definitely, when it comes to the OVAs, I don't know which one it was. I don't know if it was the last season's OVA, but the one where like they're doing like a training exercise and they're all stuck in that one building. I didn't really enjoy that one that much. It was cool, but that would sort of be at the bottom of my list, or towards the bottom of my list. And when it comes to OVAs, I want to see more fun stuff, and this was definitely a bunch of fun. Both of these OVAs delivered massively on not just like action, because I'm not expecting action, but it did deliver. And when it came to the animation for at least the second OVA, it wasn't as good. I'd say it wasn't as good as the first one, or HBL, but it was definitely decent, right? It was pretty alright. So yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about the OVAs. That's what I thought. I thought they were really good. I think they're one of the best OVAs that's come out from My Hero Academia so far. Now, I'm going to go look over the chat. I've seen that there's like one person been chatting, so I'm going to answer maybe some of your questions, and see, what we're really thinking about this. Might have to go up, but let's see what's going on. Moaning still sus, bro. Hey, it sounded like moaning to me, right? Bakugo's laugh looked very forced. I feel like that's just kind of how he is. He's a very forced person, and the quirk is forcing him to laugh. And I still think that the if I was to give that episode a really funny moment that I enjoyed, it was Bakugo just like straight up dying. Like when he laughs at the end, like towards the end of the episode, he just stays still with a big ass smile on his face, and he's just like dead. Like I think a little Bakugo ghost comes out of him because he just can't believe what just happened and how Deku just stopped him from beating this villain or stopping this villain. Right? That was hilarious to me. I did enjoy it. Deku realized that not villains are bad and that are human like the rest of the heroes should be at the end of the war arc, in my opinion. Yeah, that's definitely how I feel about it too, because that's when he sort of really has that big revelation of him wanting to understand his villains more, and that's when we really see it happening, right? Like after the war arc, and spoilers for those who are anime only and are still here, that's when he runs into Muscular again, and then he tries to understand him a little bit more. So that I kind of wish, it's very nitpicky. You could say it's very nitpicky, but I wish like that sort of part of his character wasn't in the OVA. I feel like they should have saved it for a different OVA when he actually wants to know more about his villains or the people that he fights. And so yeah, Smiley is goated. Aizawa is legally not allowed to laugh, basically. We love to see Bakugo's character 100%. Parallels. Oh, I love the parallels between Bakugo and Endeavor, but we not about to get into that right now. Does filler really well, in my opinion. I think when it comes to My Hero Academia and fillers, it's sort of half and half for me, because a lot of the fillers and the fillers that they do have, like the first episode fillers, right? The recap episodes, I hate those so much. And I know it's a big word to use, like hate, but it's so it's because someone like me or like many other fans, we already know what these characters can do. I don't need you to tell me what these characters can do. The lion's name is Shinshido. Yeah, I know the lion's name is Shinshido. It's just the like his actual, I think his hero name is like Lionel or something like that, or at least that's what the team name was, right? That's what I was referring to about it. Smiley should become a hero. It would be cool to see Smiley do hero stuff, and that's kind of what Deku hinted at towards like the end. I was like, hey, it'd be cool if he actually became a hero and used his quirk for good. But I like that even though he has a quirk that could be used for good, that's not what he wants to use his quirk for. It shows that it's not all about heroes and villains. It's like, hey, I have a quirk, and even though it's a good and somewhat strong quirk, I don't want to use it to fight crime. I'm not a fighter. I like to show my passion and my love through my art. So I thought that was very good. I like seeing that sort of aspect of quirks and people in My Hero Academia. Deku is maturing as a person and a hero. Yeah, definitely. That's why when he has that sort of, I guess you could say, epiphany, or when he wants to learn more about the villains he fights, like when he wants to learn more about Shigaraki, that was growth in my eyes. I know a lot of people like to say Deku gets no development, but Deku has a good amount of development. It's just, I guess a lot of people tend to really throw it to the side just because he might cry or something like that, which I think is a dumb reason to sort of undermine his development, all because he cries or something like that. And a lot of the time, I know I'm about to get into a rant, but I hate when people say that somebody needs to die in order for Deku to get the most development. I don't think anybody needs to die. just for a character to get development. I think that's not how it works. Just look at Bakugo. Bakugo really had nobody that died in his life, at least, right? You could say Midnight or whatever, but that really didn't affect him. It's something we've seen characters die and it not affecting Bakugo as it did other characters, and he's still the most developed character in the series, right? You can have characters with really good development that don't require other characters around them to die. It's just a dumb thing that I hear a lot all the time, and it mostly came from a lot of people that watch Naruto, and literally in Naruto, everybody that is a villain or just is some person dies and then it affects Naruto in a specific way. And I really don't think that necessarily needs to be a thing, because there's plenty works of fiction out there where characters die, but that's not necessarily what develops the main character. So I think it's kind of like a ridiculous thing that people say that. I know you didn't say that, but that's just like something I needed to get off my chest. Yeah, I understand. Just meant the good fillers like the OVAs, not really the recaps. Yeah, the recaps get on my nerves, but regular fillers, like I really like the Froppy one. I know I made a video about it like a long time ago about like fillers being ass or whatever, but some are good, and the Froppy one was definitely one of my favorites. I enjoy fillers like that where we just get to see what other characters are doing and stuff like that. That to me I like, because we don't really get that a lot in My Hero Academia itself. Shinshido is in the War Arc. Oh, is he? It's been a while. I haven't really went that back into it. Shishido is number 13 on the Hero Billboard. Gang Orca is number 12 on the Hero Billboard. Yeah, Majestic is number 11. Let's not get into Majestic. We don't want to spoil anybody here. Yeah, he learned that society breeds evil, and that's the reason why he wants to make a better society. And he also realized that he needs to rely on his friends and make a better society. And that's why he says that's how we all became the number one heroes. Yeah, Deku's development is definitely solid. I wouldn't say is the best in the series. Like it's not. He's not the most developed character in the series, but he's definitely developed in the series a lot compared to what he was back then. His mindset, the way he goes about things has changed a lot. Whether people want to realize it or not, it has. But yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the new topic, the one that's on the title of the video or the stream. Let's get into chapter 361. Now, for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, who came for the OVA only, please leave now if you don't want to be spoiled. That's why I put the first part of the stream to be the OVA talk, because it'd kind of be weird if we went into manga stuff first, then anime stuff. So yeah, if you don't want to get spoiled on whatever's happening in the manga right now, please click off. I don't want nobody getting mad at me. So let's get into chapter 361. So 361 picks up basically right after Mirio does his thing, right after he does the punch, and then the chapter ends and whatnot. And it starts off kind of funny, because I'm gonna pull up the chapter right now just so I could talk about it better. But we see that Tenko is still in there, as he's still active within Shigaraki, and that is something that is very interesting, because I thought My Hero Academia might go there, but I didn't think it actually would. So it was a surprise that Tenko is sort of like another personality within Shigaraki, because originally I thought the way it was going to go was that Tenko was going to be just like that inner child, that sort of somebody like you, like it was a metaphor to reaching within the good of Shigaraki. I thought that's kind of how it was gonna play out. Like there's still good in Shigaraki, and we could probably get to him through that. But it turns out that Tenko is a whole entity in itself, and that's what All for One, or the Shig for One, because at that point they're sort of like already a combined mind. Shig for One is like, I wasn't expecting this, but there's a whole other entity within us, or within me, and that was very surprising that Tenko is that other entity. He's basically a whole other personality, and it kind of makes it a lot more sad. like when you really think about it, it's really sad because after all the crap that's happened to Shigaraki, or basically Tenko, right? At that young age, he split his personality. When you really think about it, he split his personality. So within Shigaraki, after he killed his parents, after All for One did his thing and groomed him, manipulated him, right? At some point, maybe a little bit before that, or as he went on his little killing spree on his family, some point in there, or maybe slightly before, he had a personality split. So there's Tenko, and then there's this new personality that's just more evil, right? It's the evil Tenko. And then obviously we get the name of Shigaraki, because that's All for One's last name, and he gave him that last name, or he gave him that name. And so now we have a named entity of Shigaraki, and then Tenko being there. And Shigaraki is the one that took over for a very long time. Yeah, a super dumb long time, because he was just 10 years old? No, not 10. He was like 5 or 6. That was a big number gap. He was like 5 or 6 when that whole thing happened, and then he got taken under All for One's wing. So it's really like it kind of, if anybody's seen Moon Knight, the Disney Plus show, it reminds me of that, right? The very traumatic thing happens to a kid, then boom, he makes up a new personality that takes over. And that's basically, I think Shigaraki before that has I don't know what the abbreviation is called, but basically dissociative identity disorder. I don't know if that's offensive to people. I know like people get offended by anything these days, so I'm calling it what it actually is, so please don't get mad at me. But it's really cool to see that happened to Shigaraki as well. It's not just he became evil overnight. It's not like something just like, hey, I'm gonna be a bad guy now. He was treated so badly, or this specific event when he killed his parents, he split, and there's now a Tenko, the innocence and the good in him, that is its own personality, that never had the chance to really grow up, because he's just been in there that whole time. And then you have Shigaraki, who was the one who got to grow up and become that villain that we all know and love or hate, right? So that was very, very cool. I did really love that sort of aspect of the chapter, that we got to see this, this whole other entity, and it's not just a metaphor for the good within Shigaraki. Of course it is, because that is the good Shigaraki, that is the good version of him, but it's cool to see that it's just a whole personality in itself. It's not just a simple metaphor where it's just, hey, that's the good in him, I'm gonna reach the good in him. But it's a whole personality. So I thought that was very, very cool, and I can't wait to see what Horikoshi sort of does with that later. Maybe Tenko loses, right? Maybe we see Tenko get overcome by it and he will end up fusing with it, but we don't know yet. Maybe Tenko's will is stronger than we think. I mean, it has to be. The guy was basically in there incognito, right, that whole time, and really only awakened when the talk of Hero and then Deku being brought up. So it's I'm very interested in seeing where that goes. But yeah, so Mirio, this is the funny part that I wanted to get into earlier, but we went on that whole thing. Mirio kind of fries Shigaraki's whole existence because he says that I guess he doesn't have friends and stuff like that, but then Tenko takes over Shigaraki's body, or Shig for One's body, and says, you know, hey, like he actually taught, and this is what I like about it. This is what I like about the personality change, right? Because when we know it's Tenko talking, because he talks like a kid. He has those kid aneurysms, or those kid, that kid language where they talk like kids. It's not as sophisticated as what a Shigaraki or even an All for One or just the rest of the cast would talk, right? It sounds like a kid talking, and it's hilarious because he's like, my friends Mikun and Tomo said that I'm really nice and I'm fun. They have fun with me, and then my dog Mon likes me and stuff like that. And he's like, so yeah, I have friends. Like, he kind of like shoves it in Mirio's face, like, yeah, I got friends. Like, what is wrong with you? Like kind of like how a little kid would. And it took Mirio by surprise because he's like, damn, my bad, bro. Like, I didn't mean to hit on a touchy subject. I'm sorry. I guess you do have friends. And that was funny, but at the same time, it was very cool to me. It's cool. It's sad when you think about it, but it's still a very overall a great moment. I think this is one of the better moments, at least within these past couple chapters. I can't even say that actually, because there was some pretty bomb moments in the last couple chapters, so I'm not even gonna say that. But it was definitely up there. It was a very, very good moment, and that's not even like a fighting thing, right? This is just like an analyzing what's going on and what's going on with Shigaraki itself and his whole character right now. So I thought that was very dope. Now, of course, the fight continues. Shigaraki, or Shig for One, has this like moment where he's like, yo, what the hell just happened? Right? Like, that wasn't me. There's this whole entity, it's Tenko's in here, and I didn't account for this. I didn't realize this would happen. It was an unforeseen variable, basically. And so, like, then you see that despite Tenko having all these hands and arms and holding him back, he's still in there, and it's like almost like he's untouchable in a way, because obviously All for One or Shig for One couldn't merge with him, or they didn't merge with him. It was like something that just didn't happen. So it's very interesting to see that this is something that is going to definitely play a prominent role in future chapters. Now, after this, Shigaraki's like, I just have to end this, right? He's like, I'm not gonna waste my time anymore on Mirio. He's clearly somebody who's there to distract me, and I'm going to go after Bakugo. I'm going to kill this kid. And don't take that out of context. But he's going to do what he's gonna have to do with Bakugo, because he wants to hurt Deku. He wants to basically cause Deku so much pain to where he rages out, loses control, and messes up and dies, right? And Shig for One will have that opportunity to end him. So that's kind of what his goal is, because he knows Bakugo and Deku have a really it's like a weird relation, not a weird relationship, but like they're the closest ones to each other. They're the closest, right? They understand each other the most. So he's going to try and get Bakugo, and he sends all of these crazy like hands, fingers, arms, and stuff like that towards their direction. Bakugo is just there, still like with his traumatized look, but he's still studying. Like we talked about in the last stream, he's studying Shigaraki in all of his moves right now. So he's going to eventually clap back, and I'm very excited to see how that's gonna turn out. If he will actually give Shigaraki the work. Of course, it doesn't happen this chapter because this is a very short chapter, but I'll get into that a little later because I do have my thoughts on that and my worries. But he's still studying him, He's still making sure that he's understanding all of Shigaraki's moves, what he's doing, and how he's doing it or how he's going about it. So I really like that. Uh, I really like that aspect of what Bakugo is doing, even though it's kind of looking like, oh, I'm gonna die type of thing. But that's how it is. Now, what I thought was really cool, not only is Best Genius trying his hardest to protect Bakugo, uh, and Shigaraki, funnily enough, kind of roasts Best Genius, which is kind of a roast that I've always had low key on Best Genius. Like every time he shows up, something happens to him, and he kind of says the same thing. He's like, "Bro, you're basically dying already. like just give up." And yeah, so I thought that was funny. But this moment that comes afterwards, the big three start attacking. Right, Shigaraki doesn't necessarily care about them because, as he says in the chapter, it's a distraction. That's what they're after. They're after to distract him, and the big three go for an attack. And this is when we get into more like Hado backstory, right? Nejiri, and like how she sort of became friends with the other two, Mirio and Sun Eater. And for a second I thought they killed her off because she does get hurt. She does get injured. She does the Nejiri Pike thing, the move that was showcased, I believe, in the last chapter. But she does the Nejiri Pike thing. He avoids it, and then he does a counterattack, and then we see her get hit by it, even though she's like still attacking. And then we have a flashback. This is why I thought she died, because they go through her backstory kind of quick. So I'm like, no way they just killed off Nejiri right now, like the big three. That would be big, but that's not what happened. Clearly that's not what happened, right? She's still alive. She's still good, boys. I know some of you be Nejiri. I mean, don't worry, me too. Me too. I'm pretty sure they're of age right now, so it's okay, guys. It's okay. Nejiri gets attacked, but then we have a backstory of how she met them, and basically it started off as like everybody around her sort of doesn't like her because her personality, right? She has a very strong quirk, and the people around her kind of feel like she's what you call it, that when she wanted to learn, so her curiosity is basically what it was, right? She wanted to learn more about other people, but it kept driving them away because they sort of felt like she was looking down on them in a way, like she was very cocky about her powers, which of course we know that really isn't the case with Nejiri. She's just very misunderstood in that aspect. But Sun Eater was actually one of the first people that came up and talked to her, and which has me wondering, right? Because I did say in the last chapter discussion that I believe Mirio and Nejiri are going to end up being a thing. I'm not gonna get too much into shipping, but it kind of feels like this might be a Sun Eater and Nejiri type of thing. It's weird because it kind of was a little set up for Mirio when he showed up during the war arc, and they were like, what, I feel a lot more powerful, a lot more better because you're here. And of course that's not really like a sort of, hey, that's his love interest type of thing, or that's her love interest type of thing, right? But it was a very cute moment during the war arc when a bunch of crazy stuff was happening. So that's why a lot of people sort of ship them. But now it's like, hey, that's the first. Sun Eater was actually the first person that said hi to her and talked to her and became friends, and they became friends. They all became friends together. So now I'm like, is Sun Eater going to be the love interest? Is this a love triangle I'm witnessing right now? And that's when she learned not learn how to smile, but that's when she like smiled more. She's enjoying herself more in school because of Sun Eater. Sun Eater was the reason why Hado, or Nejiri, whatever you want to call her, ended up being a lot more smiley, a lot more exciting and stuff like that. Because when we first see the backstory, she looks very depressed in the beginning. When she's just sitting at her desk, she looks bored, but she ends up smiling and enjoying herself a lot more after with Sun Eater and Mirio. So that's like her best friends, even though we could see it evolve into something more in the future, which I thought was very interesting. That Sun Eater was basically the reason why Nedry smiles a lot more. So that was pretty cool. And she says, like, I'm stronger for it. I'm stronger for being friends with them. And so that was pretty cool. And then we get into probably one of my favorite things that happened in the chapter. So Sun Eater, we learned a little bit more about Sun Eater through Mirio and thing, and this happens on the last 2 pages, right? It's like, hey, Sun Eater is the strongest one of the big 3. It was Mirio. A lot of people assumed it was Mirio, but when we learn more throughout the chapter, it's like, hey, my punches are weak. I'm not gonna do that much damage to Shigaraki. I'm more of a just a big distraction. But the one who could really do damage and is basically our only hope out of all of us is Sun Eater. And we learn that Sun Eater has this ability. I've seen like somebody say it's a quirk awakening. I don't think it's a quirk awakening because they knew about this for a while already, like this ability that he can just combine all the snacks and stuff like that. Oh, hey kid, I didn't see you streaming. Well, welcome to the stream, boys. But I'm glad you tuned in. The stream is always replayable if you missed the earlier parts, because we did go over the OVAs. So just whenever, or if you ever feel like it, you could just run it back. It's fine. Just thanks for tuning in right now. That's what's important, boys. But like I was saying, he has this very big super move where he combines all of the snacks and food that he ate into a big attack, and then he forms like this. At first I thought it was Shigaraki like attacking Sun Eater, but it was actually Sun Eater putting all of the food and snacks in this big hybrid, because it's, I believe, I guess they didn't name the move in the chapter, but it's this big hybrid collage, I guess you could say, of just a bunch of stuff that he's eaten packed in one arm. His arm grows into this big, like, sort of All For One looking thing. Like when All For One combines all of his quirks, it looks very disgusting, it looks grotesque, it's very body horror-ish, right? And that's what Sun Eater does. He has like this sort of All For One looking big combination move where all of the snacks and food that he ate is in one arm, and he's going to, like, I guess probably shoot Shigaraki with it. I'm not sure what he's gonna do, but it looks like it's kind of like a cannon, right? Like he's gonna blast off something crazy towards Shigaraki, and that's how he's going to do damage, or that's how they're going to do damage. And it's not really specifically stated if this is like a one-off thing. Like, this is probably the only time he's going to be able to do this, and this is what they need right now because of Shigaraki basically not wanting anything to do with them and wanting to go after Bakugo's head. So and that's where the chapter basically ends, right? It ends on, all of our hope is within Sun Eater and whether or not Sun Eater can do this. And I thought it was really cool. I love that, it's not the Mirio gang, right? It's not just about Mirio. It's about all 3 of them. They're the big 3. They're the best of the best at UA. So it's very cool, in my opinion, that we not only get to see just like, we already had our Mirio moment back in the overhaul arc. And so now we're getting more of everyone else that's a part of the big 3. Hado has her moments, even though maybe some people might feel like she deserves more, but she's had her moments. She's had some really decent moments so far. And now it's Sun Eater. Sun Eater is about to go off, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next chapter, and what'll be the result of that big ass hybrid arm. So that's basically chapter 361. My thoughts on it: I love the chapter. I thought it was a really, really good chapter. For what I said, the whole Shigaraki split personality thing that's going on top of, just the big three getting more time to shine. It was a great chapter. Maybe some people might be like, hey, you like every chapter of My Hero Academia or My Hero Academia channel, you're gonna, basically be riding the series like that. But there are chapters that I'm like, and stuff like that. But to me personally, this chapter was great. This chapter brought a lot of new things to the table of just Shigaraki alone, and the fact that there's more to the big three than originally thought. Right? They have more in their arsenal than we thought. We've seen Sun Eater do crazy stuff back during the overall arc, and now we're about to see him basically unleash his full power. So I am very excited to see what's gonna happen in the next chapter. I feel like this is one of the most exciting times to be a My Hero Academia fan, just because not only is this the final arc, but we're gonna see a lot of people do a lot of really cool and interesting things. And that's what I'm kind of living for right now. Like, I'm very hyped and happy that, it's that all of this is going on. I said, I mean, you can critique the series even if you're a fan, right? Yeah, of course, yeah. But a lot of people tend to be like, oh, you're a big fan of My Hero Academia, you're not really gonna critique it and stuff like that. And I think that's a dumb thing, because me personally, I do see a lot of the negatives in I needed that in chapters, or just the animation and stuff like that, right? If I was just completely like blinded by everything, I'd say every single thing about it was great. Like when the season came out, I would have been one of those people that was just like, it's fine, you're tripping, it's great as it is right now. But no, I had problems with season 5, right? And I think that's kind of what makes a true fan, because you love the series so much that you want to see it be good, you want to see it succeed. And if you have some problems with the series, you should be able to voice it, because that's what you want. You want the series to be good at the end of the day. This is a series you're invested in. This is a series that you love with all your might, right? All might. But and I feel like if you love a series a lot to the point where you can't critique it, of course you would be labeled as a super fan or a stan. But I feel like, to me, even though there are fans like that, to me, I feel like not a real fan, because every fan, if you like My Hero Academia in any aspect, you're a fan. But like, I say a real like try hard, or like a someone who is invested and really loves the series to the point where they can critique it. I think that's what makes a true fan, or like a good fan. I don't want to like undermine anybody's love for My Hero Academia, but I feel like you should be able to critique what you love, and that's how I feel about it. But I did want to touch about the chapter length. For those of you who haven't read it, or maybe just read it and didn't realize it, but this chapter was 11 pages long. And that is kind of concerning, because we have gotten chapters like that before, where it's just 11 pages, 10 pages and stuff like that. And of course you can be like, hey, the chapter had a lot of stuff going on in it, so it must have taken a hell of a long time to draw those things, because there was a lot of stuff going on in this chapter. Shigaraki has all these arms flying everywhere, these fingers and stuff like that. We get Mirio doing stuff, Hato's with her quirk, and that's a lot of stuff. Like, let's not undermine what we saw in the chapter, right? That's a lot of stuff, but it's still a very short chapter for what we got. Oh yeah, and plus the big arm that Sun Eater formed at the end. It's a very it had a lot of stuff going on. but it's very concerning because I believe in this week alone, or the week when the chapter came out, and you have the weekly author comments, right, from I believe almost every WSJ author, right, the Weekly Shonen Jump authors make a comment for that week, and Horikoshi said something along the lines of, "Oh, I wish my body would stop making me feel like I have this sort of sickness and stuff like that." So Horikoshi basically said he doesn't feel good. His body is making him feel under the weather, and it kind of reflects with the chapter length, right? You sort of like, damn, even though it was a short chapter, Horikoshi should take his breaks, because that what happens with a lot of mangaka, they tend to get sick a lot, and that's most likely an industry thing, right? Because they're always working, they're always drawing nonstop for the next chapter and the chapters ahead of that, right? So they're constantly working, they're constantly drawing, their back is always hunched and stuff like that. So they're gonna get sick, they're gonna not feel good, their bodies aren't going to feel all that great, and Horikoshi is kind of going through something like that right now. I guess you could say he sort of hinted at it, even though a lot of these author comments can be viewed as, funny little comments or just what they're doing or what they're up to. It's still kind of like sad to see that Horikoshi's body has went to a point where it sort of is making him feel like he has certain sicknesses, and like I said, it reflects in the chapter length. We got a very short chapter this week, and even though I would have loved to have seen a longer chapter, I would have rather have loved if the chapter got delayed and Horikoshi took his break, or at least we got the chapter and then 2 weeks Horikoshi gets a break. These guys need to get their breaks, man. You don't understand that. Well, maybe a lot of you do, but it's very like, because there's a lot of fans right there who don't understand that these guys are getting worked to the bone because they have successful series, and a lot of people tune in each week for specific series. They don't really read the Weekly Shonen Jump for maybe One Piece or something else in there, right? They go for a specific series, and some people will go for specifically My Hero Academia, and you need. They are going to be like, drop this chapter, do this, do that. Allegedly, I'm not going to say that's exactly what they do, but that's how it is. They're working constantly, and they need their breaks. I feel like authors like Horikoshi, like Oda, like anybody who is constantly working week by week, dropping content, making us amazing and good content that we enjoy and love, that they deserve their breaks. Maybe, like, you could say for up and coming mangaka, they probably would need to take less breaks just because they need to build up that fan base. But for someone like Horikoshi, at least, who has this humongous fan base, taking 2 weeks off wouldn't hurt the series. At least I think it wouldn't, right? We want to see My Hero Academia succeed. We want to see Horikoshi in good health, and that's what we need. Oh, and I didn't even finish what I was saying earlier about how fans get mad. But a lot of fans, like I was saying earlier before I completely forgot about it. A lot of fans don't understand that these guys need their breaks, and they tend to get really mad when a new chapter doesn't drop, or it's like, oh man, I was excited for this week, and just to find out a new chapter didn't drop. And it's like, bro, just chill. There's always going to be next week. There's always going to be a tomorrow. Just wait it out. Let these guys get their breaks. They need it. They really do need their breaks, guys. But yeah, I do hope Horikoshi gets well. There's going to be a chapter this week, so I'm hoping that his body isn't completely violating him and stuff like that. Like, maybe it's just a little joke, or it's not that serious as a lot of us are taking it. But at the end of the day, I do hope it's not that big of a deal, because I don't want anything bad to happen to him. He is a human after all. We have to treat him like that. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the chapter. What? I went full Southern right there on the chapter length of uh of My Hero Academia, chapter 361. Of course, it's to me it's very concerning. So I do hope that gets situated. I do hope he gets more breaks because of it. And that's kind of the concern of the chapter. That's how I felt about this week's chapter, or well, last week's chapter. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. I'm going to get into the chat log, and maybe from the looks of it, I might have time to talk about something else. Let me search up the My Hero Academia on Google and see what's going on in the news, and maybe we could pick a topic from there. Maybe we can get into something controversial. I don't know, but let's get into the chat and see what you guys are saying. Yeah, pretty good chapter in my opinion. I mean, yeah, I read that one. Yeah, Shiggy gets more interesting for me. Yeah, he's definitely getting a lot more interesting as the chapters go on. And I do believe we're going to eventually see Shigaraki return. Like, it's not Shig for one. It's going to be straight up Shigaraki, and he overtook the All for One inside of him. So I do hope we eventually get to see Shigaraki return, because I know that a lot of people got mad about, All for One taking over his body. Great time to be at. Oof, that makes some My Hero Academia fans angry. Ocean's YouTube channel. Oh, I've seen Ocean's make, like, because I think I follow him on Twitter. I've seen him, like, get a little bit upset with the chapters coming out. Honestly, I don't see it exactly the way he does, but it's up for interpretation. Everything that comes out that's a work of fiction, a lot of it is going to be up for interpretation, how you interpret the chapter, how you interpret the work, and he just sees it very differently. I mean, I feel like he's been seeing it very differently for quite a while already. Like, at this point, it kind of feels like Oceans just doesn't like My Hero Academia, but of course that's just an assumption of what I see from time to time on Twitter. Of course, I believe he's still a big fan of the series, and I do believe he still loves it. So, that's just an observation. It's nothing really big, no drama, trust me. But it's to each their own, basically. Some people might enjoy the chapters, others not really. Tamaki ate a brown bear, alligator, zebra, spider, scorpion, octopus. That, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that was listed in there in the like his moves, because there's a list surrounding the big humongous transformed arm, right? And of like what's combined in it, the hybrid. And there's a lot of weird stuff in there. Not weird stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's just like, wow, that I can't believe he actually ate that. So all right, continue on. The chapter was very short. Horikoshi might need a break. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he definitely needs a break. Hey, for me, I would give him a 2-week break. Good solid 2 weeks of no My Hero Academia. Of course that's gonna hurt some fans, but if it's for the better of Horikoshi and his health, take it, man. Just take it. Give it to him. Shueisha, jump. Give my mans a break, please. I think getting chapters every week is good, so I don't really have any problems with 11 pages. Yeah, I don't know. 11 pages is not bad, but at the same time, it's still kind of concerning that we got an 11-page chapter, and then on top of that, a kind of a concerning author comment of the week. So that's kind of like what I was basing it off of, because like I said, we have gotten 11-page chapters before, and a lot of people kind of didn't like those. They wanted more pages, and I'm just like, hey, as long as Horikoshi is feeling good and is getting something out for everybody, we should just be grateful that a chapter came out. That's kind of how I see it. I think Horikoshi deserves breaks 100%. Yeah, he's probably overworked, most likely. Uh, yeah, I agree. It's better if the mangaka is in good health. He literally said the villain hunt broke My Hero Academia. Honestly, I don't really agree with a lot of his points. Uh, I don't think the villain hunt did anything that bad. If by villain hunt do you mean like, I'm pretty sure you're talking about like the Tartarus escapee arc, where they're going out and looking for villains and then arresting them and stuff like that. That to me necessarily wasn't that bad. I feel like yes, 100%. A lot of the criticisms for that arc is valid because they could have done a lot more. They could have definitely done a lot more with the escapees and stuff like that. And they did rush sort of how the characters were feeling about the whole war arc thing that went down. So there's, I'd say it was. I wouldn't say it's the weakest. No, it's. I'd say it's the weakest arc, but it still wasn't entirely bad or it broke the series necessarily. I just think it was all right. It was all right. We did get some pretty cool stuff out of it. I'm not gonna say we didn't, or I'm not gonna say we got absolutely nothing out of the Tartarus arc, escapee arc. Uh, it was a fun arc. It wasn't necessarily the best, but it was pretty good. It was all right. That's the most I could say about it. Uh, I guess the most memorable thing about it was just Deku going back to UA. So that's about it. Muscular versus Deku wasn't all that crazy, if I'm gonna be completely honest. I mean, how could it? Deku is stupid overpowered at this point, so Muscular was going to be absolutely nothing to him. Then Nagant, we got Nagant out of it. Nagant was freaking awesome. So we did get some good stuff out of it, but it wasn't the best, right? That's what I got to say about that. Plot armor. Wonder. Yeah, I do know plot armor. Plot armor. Yeah, I watch his videos sometimes. I don't necessarily watch other My Hero Academia creators because then I feel like maybe my opinions or my content is going to sound like theirs. So I don't necessarily watch them for My Hero Academia, but for plot armor, I have seen like other chapter reviews and stuff like that, and what he says in those things, and excuse me, and like the One Punch Man, I've seen like a couple of those where he's reviews One Punch Man, and I enjoy plot armor. I like him. I think he's cool. I don't necessarily follow him on Twitter or anything like that, but yeah. Wonder what is going to happen in chapter 362. Yeah, me too. They could totally just do what Horikoshi could end up pulling a fast one on us and just completely going to a different spot in the war, which he has done before. We was in the middle of a Todoroki versus Dabi, and then somehow we were spectating what was going on somewhere else, right? So that that could definitely very well happen. But we'll see. We'll see what Horikoshi brings to the table for chapter 362. Naki Smash, Gashly and Kuneda. Anaki Smash. Aniki Smash? I don't know what that is, honestly. I'm sorry. I personally think Villain Hunt was a great arc, in my opinion. Yeah, like I said, it gave us really good stuff. I don't think it's the best arc. I don't think it's the greatest. It's like an in-betweener for me, honestly. We got some really, really cool stuff out of it. I'm not going to say we didn't, but it could have been better. It could have been a lot better than what we got. Still, I think it was a good arc, but it still could have been better, right? If Horikoshi had the time or the chance to flesh out a little bit more stuff, it could have been like up there. Not like on the level of, on my personal level, like Stars and Stripes or just the War Arc or My Villain Academia, but it could have been up there, right? It could have been standing alongside with some of the best, but it just isn't. Not for me, at least. So let's see what is going on in the My Hero Academia news. Uh, I'm trying to see if there's something else that we could talk about already. Of course, I just saw an article. It's talking about the problematic moments in My Hero Academia. Actually, speaking of problematic, I guess to end it off, let's go on a quick Mineta talk. Now, I guess this is going to be viewed as kind of controversial, and I do want to get into like the stereotypes type of thing. Uh, I don't think the pervy stereotype is that bad. I know, kill me right now, like, but I don't think it's bad because one, yes, is viewed as comedy, but it's also a good lesson, right? Especially when it comes to a lot of younger viewers, right? When it comes to like Mineta and stuff like that. So I guess this topic or this last section of the stream is going to basically be why pervy characters are good for anime, and I might turn this into an actual video. So maybe part of this stream will actually make it into a video, but I believe pervy characters are kind of good for anime. And what I mean by that, and I know a lot of people might actually, misinterpret what I mean by that. Like, oh, you just like are a weirdo. You want to see these young characters do nasty stuff, and that's not really the case. Because the way I look at it is, a lot of these pervy characters do teach really good lessons to those who are younger. Of course, we're old. Well, I'm old. I'm 23, and when I see these pervy characters, I laugh more at it. I'm a person who, I could be a perv in my own right, but I'm not going to go to the extent of a Mineta or a Master Roshi. But what I like about these characters is that they can really show younger kids to not be perverts. And what I mean by that is when a lot of these pervy characters do a lot of their pervy stuff, or they do, they prey on their like little victims, they tend to get a comeuppance. They tend to get what they deserve, right? Because doing that is a bad thing. Preying upon somebody or just like wanting to do something disgusting or whatever is a very bad thing. And a lot of the times, or the vast majority of the time, right? Because most of the time, these pervy characters aren't really successful. You might have like that Mineta moment where he brushes up against Asui's boobs, but the majority of the time, they're not winning. They're not getting any play, and on top of that, they get hurt. They get seriously hurt. They get violated by other characters, and it shows that this is a bad thing. So if you have someone who's younger watching, who's growing, who has a developing brain, and is growing up and going to eventually become an adult or a teenager one of these days, you would want something like a My Hero Academia or something like a pervy character to show that this is not a good thing. This is not how normal people act, or this is not what is normal. This is not good. So Mineta getting his comeuppance, getting hit, getting tortured for being a bad person, for being horny, I guess you could say, or just a perv and just wanting to sneak a peek or cop a feel. That's what's going to happen to you. You're not going to be looked at as somebody who's praised. You're not going to be looked at as someone who is glorified or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not going to end up good for you, and that's what happens to Mineta and a bunch of these other pervy characters that we see in other manga, right? And back in my day, oh my god, I sound so old. Back in my day, new AI will find a girl. What is this freaking bot in my thing? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me. I almost added them as a moderator. How do I just like ban somebody? I feel like I'm old if I have to say that. Put user in a timeout. Report. guess that. Yeah, I know, right? The comments is wilding right now. Hide this user on the channel. All right, there we go. I guess that's basically how you ban them. Sorry that took me a while. Damn, Abaz, I imagine. Oh my god, I would regret that so much. But yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. I hate seeing those things on the channel. Um, but like I was saying, it's not a good thing. And for me personally, when I was growing up back then, I sound old. When I was growing up back then, and I saw Dragon Ball, and I saw Naruto, and I saw these characters doing very perverted things, and they always got their come ups, I didn't think of it as a good thing, right? I thought of it as like, oh, that's a bad thing. That you shouldn't be doing that. And of course, I'm attracted to girls, and I'm like, hey, maybe, but I know that can be taken out of context, but it's like, I'm interested in that. I do want to see a woman get naked, right? That's just in my nature because I like that. But I'm not going out there. I'm not preying on anybody. I'm not trying to be this because in my mind, that's how I learned when watching these animes, when watching these TV shows and stuff, that these types of characters are not characters that I want to be. That's why you don't hear nobody saying, I want to be like Mineta when I grow up. No, they want to be like a Deku. They want to be like an All Might. And these are characters that are respected, right? These are respected characters. And this guy is back. What the hell? And these are guys that are very respected, right? Spider-Man, you don't see Spider-Man doing that shit. You don't see nobody doing that, right? And you learn from these characters that, hey, that's not a good thing. So that's what I kind of like about these sort of pervy characters. He's like, yeah, but Tsunade's still hot. Tsunade could get the work, even though she's like 500 years old. She could get the work. Just make that skin look young, girl. Hell, I even take an old Tsunade. I don't care. Tsunade could get it, right? But it's something that I've always just picked up on, like as a kid, and I feel like a lot of like media outlets or something like that tend to think, hey, we can't have this character in here because they're bad, they're problematic, they teach kids the wrong things, and that's not what I ever learned when learning. When growing up and watching these shows, I never learned to be problematic. I never learned to prey on someone. I never learned to, want to sneak a peek or touch somebody in a wrong way, right? That's not what I picked up from these characters. What I picked up from these characters was that's a bad thing. You shouldn't do that. You're gonna get hurt. If you do that, you're gonna be looked at as a bad person. You're gonna be shamed and stuff like that. So that's what I've always picked up on it. That's what I've always seen and learned from my personal experience. And it kind of feels like when these media outlets say these things, it's like, don't you think like people are smart enough to realize what is good and bad? Who are you to tell me what's a problematic thing? A problematic thing would be praising a certain character for being a scumbag, right? For doing things that are inappropriate to other characters, like men or female, right? Male or female, it doesn't matter. If they're doing it to a character that's wrong and that makes people feel uncomfortable, you shouldn't do it. And I've never learned that, right? Other people tend to pick up on those things as well. That's why, when growing up, there's a lot of shows that have these very strong messages in it that teach kids how to be a decent person, right? It doesn't outright tell you, hey, if you think this way, you're a bad person, but it's like it tells you in a very funny, in a very subtle, sometimes subtle, but in a very funny way, and it teaches you in that aspect. And that's what I kind of like about pervy characters, and that's why I don't think pervy characters are necessarily problematic or bad. What they do is problematic, yeah, but the lesson you learn from it is not. The lesson you learn from it is actually a good thing. So that's what I kind of really like about these sort of pervy characters. Yes, you do get that entertainment factor in it. Yes, there is going to be some fan service along with it. You're going to get those things along with it because it's a pervy character. Of course, they kind of come with it, right? But you do get a good lesson out of it. You do get a good lesson that kids who watch My Hero Academia will learn, will pick up on. Kids pick up on things, and they're smarter than what you might think. So, people say Mineta likes is bisexual. He's not. I don't want anybody to think I'm like punching down on anything because I'm not. But I remember seeing that. This was all over a translation, by the way, but that's not what Mineta meant at all. You know, he loves the way Midoriya is like cool, and it's not like I love you type of thing. You know, I want to be with you, because nobody in My Hero Academia, the cast did not take it like that. In the chapter that line was said, where Mineta basically says I love you to Midoriya or to Deku, it's not looked at even by other students in the class like, oh, Mineta is in love with Midoriya. That's not how it's looked at. That's not how Mineta perceived it, and that's not how other characters perceived it. So to me, that's just like, you know, that's not how it is, right? Wouldn't a better lesson be Mineta getting kicked out of UA? Yeah, that would be a good lesson, but then, you know, at the same time, it's fiction, right? It'd be, I think it's good that a character like Mineta is like a constant reminder of what not to do. And it's kind of hard to talk about that because Mineta still is, you know, a prominent character. And yeah, if he got kicked out, it would be good to show that, hey, your actions have consequences in a big way, right? Because in real life, that's how it works. You do something inappropriate to someone at work or just on the street, you're going to have some pretty big consequences. You're going to go to jail, you're going to get fired, or worse, you're going to get canceled, right? So you're basically, you know, that's what comes with it. Those are the biggest consequences in the real world. But with Mineta being a constant reminder and not being something that is a one-off thing, right? Because if it's just a one-off thing, who's going to really pay attention to it? So with him being a constant reminder of this is not good, don't do this, it's more going to ingrain in someone's head that this is not a good thing. So that's why I feel like, you know, Mineta getting kicked out of UA would be a good way to show kids that this is not a good thing. But at the same time, it's like, if you do it that one time and then Mineta's not there for the rest of the series, how else do you show kids that doing this kind of thing is not a good thing? What, do you have a villain that wants to do bad things like that all the time? Are you just always going to have a villain that wants to do that? I mean, we did kind of see a villain. We have seen a villain already who has said something along those lines and they died instantly in My Hero Academia. So that, I guess you could say that's sort of the big consequence that you could get from doing stuff like that. Because I think it happened during the Tartarus escapee arc, where one of the villains that escaped was like, oh, I can't wait to prey on women or you know, R-word women or something like that, right? Like how he used to, or something along those lines is what he said. Throat is getting violated right now. Pause. And he dies. He dies because Stain kills him, because he's like, bro, you're disgusting, right? Like, he's like, you're a sickness. You're dirty, right? So Stain kills him, and that was a good way, I guess you could say, to show that younger audience that, hey, this is something that is actually really bad, but still having that constant reminder of it's bad, and, you know, seeing the ultimate consequence of what could happen for doing that is good, right? You have the ultimate consequence. They already went through the ultimate consequence with the guy dying by the hand of Stain. Can't imagine getting killed by Stain because that had to have been bad. But even though I think it happened pretty quick, you Horikoshi. I just got violated in my words. Horikoshi has shown the major consequence of that action. But with Mineta being there, with Mineta being a kid, being a hero or whatever, blah 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 in the third, you're able to show consistently that this is a bad thing. So yes, it would be good. It would be a good way to show it. But My Hero Academia has kind of already shown the ultimate consequence of it, of doing that. And I do think Mineta will one day change. Maybe not anytime soon. He's still a kid. He's still like he's a teenager. He's going to have those like hormones of wanting to see girls, naked or whatever. And that's a normal thing. You could say like, hey, that shouldn't be a normal thing, but it's kind of like an animalistic nature, I guess you could say, like wanting to do the nasty, right? Animals do it all the time, and we as humans are animals. And I'm not trying to, make Mineta look good or make Mineta look understandable. I'm not defending him in any way. I'm just saying, being horny is not a bad thing. Like, but it can be, right? That's basically what my point is. God, when Mineta X Deku came up after that, and I wanted to die. I was Kaminari is a bit. Well, let me get into that other one in a second. I was kind of on the same boat because a lot of people really just jumped the ship when that happened. Ship, not shit. When that happened, because I understand a lot of people want to see characters of other, that are interested in not just boys or not just girls, right? They want to see other characters who like other things, and that's understandable to an extent. But just to off of a one-off like little thing that wasn't taken as him actually admitting that he loves him as he loves him is a bit too much, because that's not how it was, or that's not how it was actually perceived in the manga. It is what it is. A lot of people just like really took it and then went along with it, and that's how it'd be like that. It's modern day stuff. Well, Kaminari is a bit pervy. Yes, he's a bit pervy. He has had him and Mineta are kind of like a duo, but Mineta is the one that kind of forces it a lot more than Kaminari. Kaminari's kind of more like, I'd say, regular guy pervy. Not regular guy pervy, but he's just like, ooh, I'm interested in that. Yeah, of course I want to see a girl naked, or stuff like that. That's kind of what Kaminari is. Kaminari's like just like not the average teen, but the horny average teen, I guess you could say. Like, he wants to see it, but he's just a little pervy. He's not to the extent of a Mineta. Mineta is gas. Mineta is gas pervy. So he wants to get stepped on by Mount Lady. That's how pervy is. Well, that's nature for humans and people. Yeah, that's how it is. So that's pretty much it. I want to say that's pretty much it for the stream. I do want to give not an update, but like, I've been playing multiverses. I've been grinding multiverses, and I remember back when I was talking about like the live action My Hero Academia stuff, and I was putting two and two together with Toho and HBO Max and Warner Brothers, right? That's kind of like their thing, and I was wondering if a My Hero Academia character could show up in multiverses, because obviously Warner Brothers and Legendary Studios are very tied together, and that's basically a Warner Brothers thing. And basically, you could technically say Warner Brothers is going to be behind making the My Hero Academia live action movie and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I would main Deku. But yeah, Your boy's been playing that. That's a little bit like what I've been up to. I've been playing a lot of that. I have been slacking off. I'm not gonna lie. I have been slacking off on some of the content, but I am. Last night I did kind of go hard before I got visited by my brother. Um, I was going hard on let's see, because I was going hard on a script, and I'm not gonna like read it out or anything like that. But I was going hard on because I it's a five. Well, I don't know if there's five, but for a top five sort of video, it's gonna be, which this might be the next video. So, like 5 things that came true in My Hero Academia, or that's kind of like what I titled it as a thing. But it's basically like drawings that foreshadowed what was going to happen in My Hero Academia. That's basically what the video is going to be about, because a lot of like colored pages and just straight up drawings that Horikoshi has dropped have sort of teased future things that was going to happen in My Hero, which is a little cool. Which is cool. I'm not gonna say it's not cool, but it's very interesting to see that. So that's gonna probably be the next video. Then I'm gonna have to get onto the weekly versus volume for volume 31, and then after that, well, maybe before that, depending on how things go, the Midnight Costume Anatomy video. For those of you who are longtime viewers, you might remember that I dropped a Mirio Costume Anatomy video where I sort of talk about how the costume, just straight up just Mirio's costume and stuff like that, and what we know about it and how it works and functions. That's basically how it's going to be for that video, except if you guys tuned into the first ever stream, we talked about how Midnight sort of like did a big change in the My Hero Academia world. So that's kind of how it's going to be. So that's kind of is going to fall under that line for that video. So look forward to that coming out. Those are what I'm recently been working on. And the big video, because I do have like a big video that I'm working on in the background, is the trauma of Shoto Todoroki. That, just like a small synopsis, I'm not going to go crazy on it, but it's basically how Todoroki's trauma formed him. That's basically what the video is going to be about. Kind of like how, I guess you could say how I analyzed earlier about Shigaraki having a split personality disorder. That's kind of how it's going to be like, except it's going to be basically how Todoroki's past affected how he is in the present, and stuff like that. And like I said before, actually I don't know if I said that, because I do talk to myself a lot when like practice, like I do like little mini practice streams without streaming, and I talk to myself on how I would go about discussing things, but I have seen people say that maybe Horikoshi, maybe Todoroki is autistic, but that's not how I've seen it. And I'm not saying that's not what it is either, but the way I've always seen it was basically his trauma, right? His childhood really messed him up to the point where he's very nonchalant. So that's kind of what the video is going to be about. I don't want to go too much into it, but you whenever that video drops, you'll find out, right? So that's basically what I've been working on, what I've been doing. Like I said, I've been playing Multiverses a lot. If any of you guys want the sauce, let me know. But I've been playing that. I finished the battle pass. Been having a great time. I've been having a blast with that game. I really love it. And that's been the up and up with your boy Kidoroki. So yeah, Ashido X Mineta. Bro, you just gave me goosebumps. Like, no, please. No. Not Ashido. I think Ashido and Kirishima it should be it. Mount Lady X you just left the X there. I think Mount Lady and Kamui Woods would look good together. He give her that wood. Denki would look but not grope. Yeah, that's the kind of character he is, right? That's, I guess you could say, the average dude. Like, I'm gonna look, but I'm not gonna touch you, right? I'm just looking, right? That's kind of how it is with Kaminari and his perviness. It's not Mineta perviness. Cool, can't wait. I'm glad. So that's going to be the end of the stream, guys. I'm glad and grateful that everybody came through. You know, even if it's just a small amount of you guys, I'm not expecting the world or anything like that, right? I'm glad we get to have these discussions so far every week. And it does kind of take a toll off of just making videos, because a lot of these topics probably wouldn't make it into a video on my channel. And I'm glad I get to just talk about more My Hero Academia stuff, or just like, you know, more My Hero Academia in general, right? With all of you guys. So I've been loving the stream so far. I love chatting with you guys. I love that we can say our opinions and not get mad about it, but come to an understanding on why we might think a certain way. And that's kind of how I want to build this community. I don't want one opinion to be the overall thought process. I want everybody to come together, think about something and stuff like, you know, that's what I kind of want our little community to be like. So I'm glad, like, you know, we get to do this almost every week. This month, before I end the stream, this month, I believe the World Heroes Mission movie is dropping on Blu-ray over here. Well, in the United States. I don't know about everywhere else, but you know, that's when it's coming out. And I am very excited. Now, I did say I was going to do a watch party for the OVAs, but I couldn't figure out the timer thing. So I didn't do it. Plus, something came up yesterday, right? And we couldn't get that done. But whenever the movie drops, we might do a watch party. I do want to get that sort of situated so that way we can watch it. We can have fun and just talk about the World Heroes Mission movie and just watch it together, right? Well, obviously I can't show it on YouTube because that'll be major copyright, but you know, I'll just sit here, make comments and stuff like that. If you've already seen the movie, I hope you don't mind like a couple comments here and there. I will try to keep it quiet. That's basically how I'm going to go about it. But you know, we'll see, right? We'll see. I'm very looking forward to just watching the movie again and, you know, enjoying a watch party. So I do want to do that. That's going to drop. I don't know if I'm going to do a giveaway this year. The last two movies that came out, I did like giveaways, mini giveaways. It wasn't crazy. The first time I think I gave away the digital code that came within my thing. And then the next year I actually gave out, I believe, a digital code as well as the steelbook. And I don't know if I'm going to do that this year. Money's tight. I would love to, because I love to give back to everybody. That's just how I am. I love to give back to the people who sort of like give me a little extra pocket change, because yes, I do make a little bit of money off of the videos. Not crazy, but you know, pocket change, right? So I do like to give back and sort of, you know, just form my community like that. So I don't know if I'm going to do that this year. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know. But maybe. I don't know yet. But, you know, if anything, let's just enjoy it. I do want to end up doing, what you call it, I guess you could say retrospectives on the last two movies. I don't know if I'm going to get that done this month, but maybe around when the movie actually drops, I might have the first one done. We'll see, though. We'll see. It's basically, you know, with me, I'm not really consistent like that, and I'm sorry about that. I would love to be more consistent, but having a kid and then YouTube and then other stuff is just a lot. So, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to end the stream now. Bakugo X Mirko, if she was younger, relax. Chill. If she was younger, I could see it. Honestly, they have good chemistry as heroes. But since she's old, well, not old, but since she's an older person, you know, it wouldn't work. But yeah, I would actually love to see if somebody got with Bakugo who kind of matched his energy like Mirko. That would be cool. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next stream or in the next video. Bye.